She needs a clean badly. I mean, to be fair, she don't look as bad as she could have done given the winter and everything. I did try and keep it clean, but yeah, she needs a wash big time. How we doing, everyone? Welcome back to another video. This one is probably going to be a bit more talking than usual. I am trying to do more talking on the camera and stuff, and trying to explain what we're doing and things like that. So yeah, this one's just going to be getting everything up to date, if that makes sense. So there's been a lot of sporadic content on the Laurel recently, and it hasn't really managed to make much sense in a kind of linear fashion that I would hope it had. So I want to kind of explain the reasons why it's kind of gone like that, how I've overcome the issues that I've found, and yeah, just where we're at, what the next steps are, and how far away we are from getting back on track again. And just talking about some other general stuff as well. So yeah, get set up and then get into it. Right, I have tried to film this video once already. I wasn't really happy with how it came out, so this is why I'm doing it again now. Hopefully I can do a much better job this time. So, the last couple of videos, sorry, I've got it, you will have seen that, and also I apologise if there's any background noise, the neighbours are in this morning. You'll have seen that I spent quite a lot of time going through the wiring and everything, extending everything, making sure it goes where it needs to, making sure that I can fit the fuse box behind the dash, and then wiring up the charge start loom so that we can actually look at actually starting it soon. Then there was another video where I was fitting up the fuel system and everything. Those were originally supposed to be one video together, but by the time I'd finished filming, there was well over, I think it was 10 hours worth of video footage that I had to try and break down into like a short, reasonable video. So I took the decision to split it out into two things. So the wiring one came first, then the fuel system, and then this video, which I'm going to be explaining, what's happened with the wiring and stuff. Where we left it with the wiring, there was an issue with the, there was an issue with the exciter wire to the start motor, where it was getting a constant 12 volts. And in order to solve that, we tried to diagnose it every which way. We couldn't find a reason why it was getting a constant 12 volts. There was nothing online to say why it was getting a constant 12 volts. Everything was wired up correctly. All I'd done was literally extend wires from one place to another to make sure that everything still reached. I hope you can hear me. And yeah, just nothing was making any sense at that point. So then I put a momentary button on the wire to make sure that we could start it only when we wanted to. Because as you saw, it was as soon as you connected the battery, it was trying to start the car, which isn't ideal. You don't want that happening, because essentially what's going to happen is even when the car starts, it's still going to be activating the starter motor, which is then going to kill the starter motor or the flywheel or both, because they're both going to be going in competition with each other. So obviously that needed to be resolved before we could do anything else. We got that resolved, and then we found that there was another issue which wasn't in the video, mainly because at that point as I say, the footage got very sporadic, very bitty. It wasn't making much sense to put in a video, because it was kind of, we pick up the camera thinking, oh yeah, we've figured out what it is now, and then we realised it hadn't changed, or something else had happened. So we put the camera down again and try and investigate it again. And it got to a point where I just kind of wanted to focus on figuring out the issue rather than filming, if that makes sense. And in order to do that, one of the things I had to do was use the internet, because we both myself and Joe, we're not electricians or any kind of electrical experts. We know how to do bits and pieces. We know that an earth needs, every electrical system needs a good earth. It needs power, things like that. We know roughly, if you follow the wires, you can generally figure out what's going on, what it's doing, things like that. And wiring diagrams are a big help as well. But when it comes to actually diagnosing issues, we were lost at this point. So one of the things I had to do was use the internet to try and get more information. And because while this workshop is amazing, it's such a good space to work in. It's dry, it's clean, mostly clean, long to keep it clean. It's a really good space. The downside is that we're in the middle of nowhere, so the telephone signal is rubbish. Like, we can barely get a text message out at best. So generally what happens is, if we find an issue up here, like for instance with this, I will need to then go home, use the internet at home, do the research, find the information, and then either buy the parts or come back up here with whatever's needed to fix that issue. In this case, I went home, spent a lot of time trawling the internet, trying to find, how loud do I know? Trying to find information on the issues we're having. So I went right back to the issue with the constant 12 volts to the exciter wire. Couldn't find anything on that. It seemed to be a complete, nobody had ever seen this issue kind of thing. Then looked at the other issues we were having. So one of the big issues that we found after we stopped filming was that when I put the breaker in on the battery, we didn't realise this at the time, but we suddenly realised that when you tried to use the starter button, all power was dying to the car, everything. So you would turn the key, it would come on, but there was a relay clicking in the back. I think it was the fuel assembly relay. You then go to press the start button, and literally everything would just go black. It was like we somehow managed to put in a kill switch instead of a start button. So I went away, started researching this, and it took a while to diagnose. There was nothing on the internet about what could be causing this issue. The only thing that really came up was bad earth, which again I'd checked and double checked those. In fact, the ones I put in the video, I've since gone back and made beefier ones of those, and I've even added an extra one on the back of the engine just to make sure that it's properly earthed as possible. There are actually 3 on there now rather than 2. That still wasn't making any difference. Went round, checked everything was plugged in correctly, made sure that the battery was properly connected, and then I was up here one Saturday, and Joe was like, well, maybe we should try asking like ChatGPT or something, because I was at my wit's end at this point. I could not find any information at all. So, I'm a bit of an AI skeptic, so I was kind of like, I don't really want to trust an AI with my car, if that makes sense. So I thought about it, did more research, and I was hitting dead ends left, right and centre. Like, no matter where I went, I wasn't getting any information that was actually meaningful or useful. So I thought, you know what, I'll give it a go. Open ChatGPT, and I started asking it questions. I basically said, I've done this and this to my car recently. This is the problem I'm having. And it came back straight away with a bunch of information I couldn't have. Essentially, most of the AI engines that you will see out there, all they do is troll the internet for the information, or troll information they can find on manufacturer websites, things like that, and manufacturer documents and all that other stuff. So what it did was it came back straight away with a couple of things to start investigating to diagnose it. So there were things like checking the battery has a good connection, checked that. Checking that the battery is actually in a good state, which we did, and it wasn't. So that was one of the problems. So I had to go buy a new battery. Then went through, what it did was it kept asking me questions to try and help get to the bottom of the problem. So it asked me things like, what's the model of the car? What engine is in it? What gearbox is in it? What battery are you using? What exactly have you done to get to this point? So like relocating the fuse box, things like that. Even at one point, it even gave me a suggested wiring schematic for turning this into a fully fledged race car, which was actually really useful. But obviously, that's not something I want to do at the moment, because it's not supposed to be a competition drift car. It's supposed to be a fun car for me to use both on the road and on the track. So it kept every time I'd ask it something, it would ask questions back, and then it's kind of like having a conversation with somebody who was more in the know, essentially. Gave me a bunch of things to test out, like going around testing all the earth connections are good enough, testing what was one of the things it asked me to test. I can't remember. There was numerous things, and what actually happened was, because I was kind of going home, asking it something, then coming up, doing a bunch of tests, getting the answers to those tests, and then going home again and asking it questions again. That process probably took, in total, about 4 to 6 weeks of just back and forth, diagnosing, going home, researching, coming back, diagnosing again, trying different things, and until one day, I can't exactly remember how this happened now, but one day it gave me a bunch of things to try. It was asking me to test like the different points between the battery to the breaker to the start, and the breaker to the fuse box. And one of the things I noticed quite quickly was that the battery to the breaker was fine, but everything from the breaker onwards wasn't. It was getting much less current through it. At which point I was looking at the wires, and I noticed that I had 2 quite substantial wires coming off the back of the breaker, and one not so substantial wire coming from the battery to the breaker. You can see it in the video actually. Some of you probably already put in a comment saying that it's the wrong, that wire's not thick enough and things like that. I know that now. I've fixed that, and yeah, as soon as I fixed that, crank's fine. Absolutely fine. New battery, that one bit of wire, that was pretty much everything that was causing those problems, except for the constant 12 volts to the exciter. So yeah, it took a long time to get just those small issues diagnosed and fixed. And yeah, it does crank now. You can see, in fact, I've got a clip of it I'll put in right here. So it does crank, and it's cranking healthily. One of the things that I was really worried about when I put the engine back together, and so was Joe actually, was that it wasn't easy to crank by hand to start with. So you get like, it would feel really stiff on the first turn, and then after that it'd just be smooth as butter. So we were a bit worried about that, like, have I done something wrong to the engine? Have I got my tolerances wrong? Things like that. Which again, if you look back in the videos, we checked and double checked all that. So in our own heads, we're like, no, we've got this right. But then it felt like the engine was telling us something else. But again, ChatGPT helped with that, because I told it, you know, what it was like cranking, and it actually came back straight away saying that this is quite common when you put new bearings in and you've replaced the oil pump with an N1 oil pump, which is exactly what I've done. So that instantly told me that actually, okay, the engine is probably going to be okay now then. But obviously having it crank was a big leap in confirming that for me. So that brings us up to, you know, what happened with all the wiring and everything. There is still a lot of bits and pieces to do on the inside, tidying up. There's still some stuff on the engine bay, like for instance you can see here. This is on the plug that comes off the back of the alternator. I have a feeling that this was chopped and not put anywhere when the RB20E to DET conversion was done, because those wires had never gone anywhere. They were left like that. They were actually tied up in the loom with everything else, so they need trimming back so that the plug's on there, because that completes the plug completes the circuit. There is a bunch of diagnostics I need to do as well, like the lights and things. I need to, you know, double check all that's working properly, make sure I've not got any loose connections in those. I've also gone through since and done a bunch of work on the cooling system, which I will show you in this clip now. So the cooling system is more or less complete. I've got one more clamp to put on there today, which unfortunately didn't get sent out with the rest of the clamps I ordered. So that was a bit of a, that's things like that have caused a lot of delays as well. So like ordering things and then it not turning when it's supposed to, or ordering a bunch of things and then only part of the order turns up and the rest doesn't, so you have to go back, and then there's a lot of back and forth and all that. I mean, I will say the company I've used for all the clamps and the silicon couplers and things like that, Auto Silicon hoses, they've been brilliant. So one of the issues I had was that part of the order came out and there was one clamp missing. So for the cooling systems, I think there's 3 or 4 clamps I needed that were one size, and then there was one that was a bigger size which goes to the thermostat. They'd sent out the ones that I'd asked for in the smaller size, but the bigger one hadn't been sent out. So I messaged them straight back and they were on it straight away, just literally asking me, you know, which one is it you're missing? And then they came back saying they'll send it out straight away. Another thing which is partly my fault, in fact it's totally my fault, is on the intake system. So I was looking at what I needed to build up the intake system, because it's not going to be routing the same way it used to. And last week I was trying to figure that one out, and I'd bought some pieces, not others, and I was talking to Joe the other day, I think it was, and I was like, do you know where I can get this from? He was like, well, where did you get your couplers and stuff from? I was like, well, silicon hoses. I was like, well, did you not try their website first? Like, actually, no, I didn't. And sure enough, they had exactly what I needed. Also, what I didn't realise about their website, which is actually really good, and I never spotted this before, probably because it's below the fold on the page when you're looking at it, especially on a mobile. When you're ordering couplers and things like that, they have the recommended size for that coupler in the clamps directly underneath it listed, so you can add the coupler and the clamps all at the same time without having to go backwards and forwards to the website and everything. So that is really, really good. Nice work. Well done on that one. So yeah, going forward, I need to pay more attention to the websites when I'm buying things. And I also need to not put my orders for stuff in at 12 midnight or 1 o'clock in the morning, because that's what's been happening a lot recently. I've kind of been forgetting about things and gone, oh, I need to order this. And then sitting up at like 1 o'clock in the morning, tapping away on my phone, ordering stuff, and then, you know, forget things and things like that. So yeah, that's pretty much where we are at the moment. I do have most of what I need for the intake system now. I'm just waiting on a 45 degree piece of aluminium pipe to come in, which should be arriving today. And then The only thing I need to get is coolant and gearbox oil, and then we can look at actually starting this. I've put some cheap engine oil in it for now, just to get it running and make sure everything's running smoothly first. I'm not going to rip on it or anything like that, because I don't want to do any damage to the engine yet. But what my plan is, obviously I've rebuilt a lot of the bottom end, so I wanted to run some cheap oil through it first, get it all running, make sure it runs correctly, and then flush that out and put some good quality oil in there. I say cheap, but I think it's Mobil I've used, so it's not actually that cheap oil that I've used, it's just I can go better, if that makes sense. And then the gearbox oil, again, I could put cheap oil in there, but given that the RB20 gearboxes are not the strongest, I want to make sure that I'm doing as much as I can to protect it, so I want to get some decent shockproof oil in there, which is why I haven't bought it yet, which brings me on to the next point. So again, one of the reasons why these videos have been a lot more sporadic recently is a combination of factors. Obviously, one is the issues that I've had with the car. The other one is my work situation. So, as you probably guessed, I can't do this full time. I never have done this full time. I do this as a passion project for myself and for whoever wants to watch it. I actually have technically 2 jobs. So one is that I work full time as a software engineer. Unfortunately, about a month ago, I was made redundant from that role. So I currently have very little money coming in to be able to put into the project, which means I'm trying to do what I can to keep things moving along without spending much money. I am working on getting another job, and fingers crossed something comes up soon. It's a very competitive market at the moment. The other thing which I do, and I absolutely love, and unfortunately, as much as I wish I could do it full time, I just don't have the sales coming in to be able to do that at the moment, and that's Death or Glory, the clothing website. So I've been running that on and off since 2013. Started off on, I think I've probably mentioned this in one of the Q&A videos actually, that it started under a different name, Stealthy, which was STLTHY, and then moved to Stealthy Garage, and then finally to Death or Glory. The reason behind the name I'll go into another time. If you want me to do that video, let me know, because it's obviously the same name I'm using for the YouTube as well. But essentially that is like my passion, a real passion project for me. I've always loved design, I've always loved drawing, I'm heavily into anime, tattoo culture, alternative culture, and for a long time I'm kind of going off on a tangent here, so bear with me. My idea was to try and combine and Japanese culture as well, combine all those elements into designs for t-shirts, stickers, things like that. And I feel like I'm doing that to some extent, although I have been holding myself back a lot for the first few years, trying to fit in, if that makes sense. Over the last probably 12, 18 months, probably longer actually, because I had a conversation with Gianni from State Sarah about this, and he was like, why do you do that? Essentially what I've been doing is I've been trying to fit in rather than trying to stand out, if that makes sense. So what I've been doing for the last probably 12, 18 months with my designs is just focusing on, what kind of designs do I want to do? What excites me for my designs? And obviously I want to kind of keep drift culture in there and cars and things like that in there. But I'm also wanting to put a lot more of my other influences in there as well now. And one of the things I'm really leaning into at the moment is the alternative culture and anime. So please, if you want to support me, go check out the website, deathorglory.style, and the stickers on there. I currently have a sale on my stickers at the moment. They're all £1 each. There are sticker packs which I think are for £6, and then t-shirts start from $18.99, hoodies from $36.99. There will be sweaters and long sleeve t-shirts coming soon, snapbacks and beanies as well. I am working on some more of those at the moment. And there are going to be new designs coming all the time. Obviously, the Labori flags as well. I do have a few of those left in stock. I am working on some new ones which will come out in the future too. So yeah, follow me on Instagram with that one, at deathorglory.style. Also, keep an eye on the website, sign up to the mailing list, because then I can keep you up to date with any new designs that are coming out in case you missed them on social media, things like that, or I forget to talk about them on YouTube channel, because again, I do that a lot. I'll do a design and then I'll think, oh yeah, I'll put that in the next video, and then completely forget. So yeah, keep asking me if I've got designs. Also, if you have any questions about anything I've talked about today, or anything in general, drop them in the comments. Let's have a chat, because yeah, I want to get to know whoever's following more, because I know I think there's like 220 followers on this channel now, which is awesome. Like, I never even thought I'd get past 50, to be perfectly honest, but 220 is wicked, and yeah, I just want to see, if I can, I want to see it grow, because I want to be able to do my own thing more. I want to be able to work on my cars more. I want to be able to go drifting more. I want to be able to do the lifestyle thing where I can actually do my own business more as well, because that is one of the big things that I really want to push, is the business, the Death or Glory business, because that is one of my big passions. I love what I do. In fact, I do love doing software as well, but there's always that thing of I'm working for someone else, I'm doing somebody else's work. Death or Glory is my work, it's all me, it's nobody else. Nobody else has an input in it. And while I do often ask, again, this is something you need to check on Instagram, I do often ask opinions of like, you know, designs that are coming out and things like that, what you think of them, what you like about them, what you don't like about them. Do you want to see this on a hoodie as well? Things like that. So there are always questions that I will ask you, and I do appreciate your opinion, but essentially this is like my baby, my passion. So yeah, do me a favour, go follow it. Yeah, cool. I hope that is informative, and sorry for all the talking. Yeah. Hopefully we'll hear this making some noise soon. Because once the engine is running, I can check that the charging system is working, everything else is working correctly. Then we've got the interior to put back together. We've got to do a full alignment on it, which we can do on the lift now, because Joe's got the kit. You saw me post a video of him getting stuck behind the lift with his alignment kit. That was fun. He didn't even realise at the time. So there's the alignment, got clearancing to do, because I do want to make sure that I can fit wheels like this size on it. They might not be running it all the time. I do have various other wheels. Again, that's something else that will come from videos. I'll be rebuilding a lot of my 17-inch 3-piece wheels. So I think I've got 2 sets of 17-inch 3-piece wheels, and then I've got 1 set of 18-inch 3-piece wheels. I'll be rebuilding them all on the channel so they fit the car properly, and because I'll be working to the specs of these wheels, they will also then fit the Sylvia properly. So yeah, keeping out for those videos as well. They will be coming in the future, but there's a lot of stuff that will be coming up on the channel with this car alone that is going to be really interesting. So like the aero as well, that's something else that I'm really looking forward to digging into, because it's going to use a lot of Joe's talents. It's going to be a big learning thing for me, which is another thing I love about working on cars at the moment. It's always a learning process for me, and I love to learn. I might sound stupid a lot of time when I'm talking, and that's because I trip over my words a lot, and I don't think about what I'm going to say before I say it. I probably should write a lot of stuff down before I actually like talk to the camera. But essentially, I love doing this stuff. I love drifting because it's a learning experience. I love working on cars because it's a learning experience. I love running my own business because it's a learning experience. It's all a learning experience, and I love to learn. I'm not like a conventional learner, if that makes sense. I learn by doing and by watching other people do so. Yeah. Hope that all makes sense. I hope I've not waffled too much. Leave a comment below. Give it a like. If you don't like it, give it a thumbs down. It always helps me to understand what kind of things you do like and don't like. And yeah, I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.